Hi class, my name's Meaghan Ranz, and this is the draft of my final presentation for organizational effectiveness. There are several parts of my presentation that I haven't quite figured out and I'm still working on, so just hold with me, and I really appreciate your feedback and everything that you think while I'm going through this presentation that will make me better, so feel free to share. The company that I chose, the organization, is a nonprofit called Pure Hope. And I actually did an internship with Pure Hope about 3 years ago. They're a company in Dallas, and so the way my presentation will go, I'm going to explain the company, explain what they do, why they do it, and then go into how I can make them more effective through my assistance this semester. So Pure Hope, the pure in Pure Hope stands for pray, understand, resolve, and engage. And so this is the model that the organization uses both internally and externally with their resources, and I'll get into what they do here in a second. But they believe they're a Christian nonprofit, and everything starts with prayer. So starting internally, and then we understand, so we gain wisdom, we research, and then after we have gathered the wisdom and the insights, then we resolve. So we decide to do something about it and then make a plan to do that. And then we engage with the world, with an issue, social justice, things like that. So a little bit about the company. This is straight from their website. So they aim to provide world-class resources that will inspire and equip followers of Christ to flourish in the sexually exploitative age and lead their families and communities to do the same. So they create resources that interact with sexuality, with human trafficking, with teaching little kiddos about sexuality as they grow up age appropriately, things like that. And so we'll get into what some of those resources are here in a second. And then this is also from the website. They say from campuses to coffee shops, churches to cinema, we're teaching and gathering people to cultivate a world free of sexual exploitation. So that's about the company, and then this is how they do, or this is who they are, excuse me. So this is the team. Half of the team is actually in Cincinnati, Ohio. Half of the team is in Dallas, Texas. So Jasper, Noel, Asia, and Dave are all in Dallas, and then Jasper kind of goes between, and then Joanne and Terry are in Cincinnati, and so that's going to be part of the problem statement, is that this team is split in half. The contact that I have at Pure Hope that I'm most close to is Asia Pearson, the Discipleship and Outreach Director. So she was my boss when I was in their internship program. Each summer, Pure Hope brings on about 5 to 6 interns who are in college who are developed through their internship program. They do a lot of resource work for them and content work, and then also it keeps everything kind of new and fresh, gives them a fresh perspective in their work. So this is what they do. It's how they meet their mission, and so they create resources kind of like this. And so a big one is Quest. It's a parenting and a sexualized culture guide, so that could be small groups. They send them out to churches. There's online versions, there's in-text versions, and they put out content on a lot of different topics for the Christian community, both in a church spectrum, so they've got some ways that they give even for churches. They will put out sermons, studies, and equip churches to talk on some really difficult topics about sexuality. Some other things they do is experiences. So like I said, the Justice Internship, I actually pulled, that's a picture of me, but it's what's on their website, so it's what I pulled. So the Justice Internship, and then they do a Quest Parenting and a Sexualized Culture Conference. At churches, they can travel to different places and do conferences with schools and churches and things like that. So that's what they do. So defining the problem, when I started talking to Asia, my boss, my previous boss at Pure Hope, and talking to her about what are the biggest obstacles that they're facing currently at the organization. This is what she said. This is based on what I've known about the company and also what she's been sharing with me for the last couple of weeks. So they have a clear view of why they do what they do. And they have a clear mission of how they do that. Like I said, the resources and the experiences and some other things they're getting into. However, there's not really a clear vision at Pure Hope of where they're going in the next 3 to 5 years, which is making it really difficult to decide what to say yes to and what to say no to organizationally. Additionally, she talked about the communication pattern between the two office locations in Cincinnati and Dallas, And then they also have a board of directors that's scattered around the country. And it's not necessarily effective in the way that they're doing it. And so they're having a hard time figuring out where to go as a company, even though they know why they do what they do and they know what they do. They don't have a vision. So the way that I decided to approach this problem, this obstacle with Pure Hope, is actually I altered the model from Meaghan Ranz that we read a couple of weeks ago. Since I wasn't doing an organization redesign, I was doing more of a process improvement. And so this is what that looks like with the 4 phases with some of the different things that I worked on. So phase 1, strategic context. And what I'm going to do here is you can see all 4, and then I'm going to go into each phase individually and explain it more. So strategic context, we'll talk about strategy and mission, purpose and values, and then we're going to assess the need for change based on my conversations with Asia and where the business is at, and then designing and evaluating that change and then implementing those changes. So phase 1, strategic context, the organizational strategy doesn't exist officially. They don't really have a strategy or anything on paper, but the team desires for their contact to have a wide and deep reach in Christian communities. So that's kind of a strategy. So their mission is, like I said, to provide world-class resources that inspire and equip followers of Christ, so on and so forth. And so I shared that with you. That's their mission. And then their purpose and values, they really don't have listed values either, but the pray, understand, resolve, and engage does help them in their work internally and externally. So that's our context. So assessing the need for improvement. Problem statement, Pure Hope has been growing in many different ways. There's a lack of clarity around the strategic vision of the organization. So the objectives, effectiveness objectives is what I called them. That vision is used for decision making and that a communication plan is developed. And then the criteria that we'll use to assess that will be within the next 3 to 5 years. Every large project or endeavor that the organization takes on fits with the mission, the vision, and the values of the organization, and that there's a process in place for them to assess that need. And then the work processes, they need to make time and space as an organization to develop a vision and assess their mission. And it says vision, I'll need to change that to values, assess their mission and values. And so that will be part of my recommendation to the organization. So in phase 3, we're designing and evaluating the change that I'm recommending and that I've been talking to Asia about. So process analysis and design, looking at the current process state and the desired process state, and then we'll need to design how to get from one to the other. And then we need to develop alignment. That's part of designing and evaluating this change. So assigning change-related tasks to different employees and making a communication plan about that. Developing criteria for changes. So the question that I would recommend Pure Hope be asking is, do the changes fit with the mission and the purpose of Pure Hope? And so that's how we know if the change that we're designing, that's how we evaluate it. And then the final phase, phase 4. So as we implement the new changes, and so I'm going to get to some process slides here in a minute of my actual recommendation to the organization, but to invest in the development of the vision, I would recommend, sorry about that. So I would recommend bringing in a third party of some sort, a development company. That could be helpful since it's a small team and they haven't really ever had a written vision. Change management I'm working on. Communication plan implementation. So they have a board of directors and donors and communication just in physical documentation. And so developing a communication plan for this vision change and the new process will be important. Tracking results, so documenting reactions about how donors and board of directors are taking this changes and Pure Hope's, the 6 individual employees. And then also documenting how each opportunity and project fits into the new vision that they would have developed. And then evaluate and adjust. I would recommend initial monthly meetings and then quarterly check-ins to see if the new process is working, and if not, adjusting it as needed. So this is just a little different view of those 4 slides, those 4 phases. And this would just be a helpful thing for the company to look at. So context, change, communication, and reinforcement is a way that they can track and look at the whole recommendation as a whole as they move forward. So I'll let you look at that for a second, and then if you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments. All right. So this is where, personally, as this is a draft, this is where I'm working and will be working for the next couple of weeks to get this in place after I talk to Asia a few more times at Pure Hope. But there will be 2 process documents. So this is the current process as I understand it from Asia about how the process goes from an initial idea from the board to implementation. And so there's really not any rubric or anything designed to help them make decisions. And so after talking with Asia about the current process, I'm also talking with her and using different resources from class, which I'll also implement into this presentation, about what an improved flow will look like. So if we go back to the current process, really right now, there could be a new idea or opportunity that the company wants to pursue. In Dallas and Cincinnati, they have separate meetings. Then they kind of have a combined meeting over the internet. So then they have idea generation and budget conversations, and there's really nothing helping them decide whether or not an opportunity is something they want to pursue. So in the improved flow, and this is just a little bit of it, what Asia and I have been talking about is as a new opportunity or idea is presented, that they connect right away through technology with documentation in an online format. So not sure exactly what that would look like, but then using a mission, vision, values rubric of some sort that we would create or that they would create to make that decision. So they would run the opportunity by the rubric first and say, does this fit or does this not? Or maybe, and then they have conversation. So then you would use a form to submit the opportunity to the board of directors who really care about what the company is doing and the opportunities. So you would integrate that and then go into the implementation phase. And then all along, as the opportunity is going, you'd be checking back to the rubric to make sure that it fits with the strategic vision of the organization. So that would be the improved flow. And then I still am working on a few slides after that improved flow to make sure that my recommendations are clear with the organization, and then developing and using tools to help make that a reality. So again, I really would love your feedback. I am still working on this presentation. It's a work in progress, but I've been proud of my work so far, and I'm excited as I talk to Asia at Pure Hope to see some of these things come to light. So thank you for your comments, and that's all I have.